Yes. So I think let us start. Okay. I will be doing the theory as planned, but let us start with a very simple problem first. Okay. To see just connectedness, just the application of the notion of connectedness, you know, without trees and all the theorems and so on. It's just a simple problem. Okay. So let us start with a simple problem. Let's see what that is. Right. So this problem is as follows. There are several cities, okay, several cities, okay. There is a capital, one capital, and there are 21 carpet lines or 21 roads, I should say. The problem was very verbose and trying to just say it. Okay, there are 21 roads from the capital or connected to the capital, connected 21 roads from the capital. Okay, and then there is another city called Farwell. Okay, there is a city Farwell. Okay, it's far, whatever. Yeah. Uh, a city Farwell has only one road. Okay, only one road from it. Only one road, and all other cities, all other cities have 20 roads, 20 roads each. So you see, there are two exceptions, right? The capital has 21 roads from it, and there is another special city, Farwell, it's far. So in that sense, it's connected. It has only one road coming out from it. Okay. And then we want to, this is a very simple question. So we just want to show that it is possible to travel from the capital to Farwell. Okay. Show that it is possible to travel from capital to Farwell. Obviously, using the roads that are given. Now, obviously, here nothing is very deterministically given, just some vague information is given. Yeah, let's think about it. I just want to do a very simple question just to get a warm up, and then we'll go to the theory and then harder questions later on next time. And if the question is not clear to someone, you can ask. Any ideas how we should start? So there are many cities and we do not know how many cities are there. Maybe one can figure that out. Or maybe not. No, you cannot. So number of cities is not fixed. Okay. But we know that there is one city, and it just naturally comes out graph theoretically, right? And even there's no theory here, it just you model it simply like that. There is one capital, maybe you can call that C. Yeah. And there is a very far off city. There are 21 roads coming out from it. So these are 20. Yes, so roads always means it's roads go from one city to another. That's a standing assumption. A road, yeah, there's no dead end. Yeah, road always, or roads always go from one city to another. Otherwise, otherwise the problem will not be correct, right? Otherwise, it's too vague. It can be anything. Then it will not be connected from one city to another. So here the modeling in terms of graphs, in terms of points and lines is really, it just comes naturally, whether you have studied graphs or whatever, it just comes or not. It just comes naturally. And Farwell, only one thing comes out, which means that it is connected to only one city. That's what it means. And every other city has 20, apart from these two has 20. So if you take any random city, there are 20 lines coming out of it. We want to show that there is a path. We want to show that there is a path from the capital to this place. Maybe so this question is not saying that proof that the graph is connected. Okay. All we want to show is that there is a way to go from C to F. So we want to show that there is a path from C to F. No, right. And in fact, that is not fixed. So maybe you can take this as an exercise. You guys can try this as an exercise, is that given this information, make two different graphs. So this piece of information doesn't fix the graph. You can imagine. You can make many graphs out of this information. You can change the number of cities and still keep these conditions. I think there will be only one. No, that's also possibly not true. There will be many graphs. But we are just concerned with, and that's what the problem is in easy but slightly interesting. There is a path from C to F. So I just wanted to do this problem as a warm-up so that we get into reasoning about these things simply. Yes. No. That is not correct because you don't know which city. No, but that you cannot say, right? Capital is connected to any city is not the same thing. Is not the same thing. But that is not true. It is sufficient, but it is not true, right? It is sufficient. If it was connected to every city, then very good. But that may not be true, right? What you're saying is sufficient for us to do this, but that's not true, right? Chandan, what were you saying? We do not know that they are connected to the capital. Yeah, so if Farwell is connected to one of the cities which is connected to the capital, then you are done. That's right. But how do we? That's exactly what the question is, and that's similar to what Raghav is saying, somewhat. But in fact, it could be more complicated. Also, I do not know. It could be connected in very whatever. That is all encapsulated in what you're saying. But how do we do this? How do we in general attack such a statement? Just looking at it from a problem solving perspective, what should be the what proof type should we be looking at for this kind of cases? Okay. Cases can work, right? Okay, how do we do that? Let's think about it. Yeah, so cases can be one way to look at it. Maybe you can look at all the cities. So maybe I should remove this and you can look at all the cities that are connected with C. And then you want to show that this point is in this. But that is just a reformulation. How do you take cases if you're taking? Certainly. Certainly. Otherwise, where will these 21 things go? Yeah. Yes, that is very simple. If there is one more city, then it's easy. But what if there are? Yeah, that's a simple case. Okay. But how do we? See, the way I look at this problem is, look, they are asking for a path, right? And just looking at it just from a math, just at the level of just a math problem and not a combinatorics problem even, then the way the problem is given, right, it is very existential in nature. Means is concretely, nothing is concretely given, okay? To say something useful in sense that you can never find the path. Doesn't look like, right? Doesn't look like we can find the path. Find that path. Well, forget about find, describe that path. Complement of complement graph, and then what? Yeah, so what do you want? But why complement? I mean, why are you using the complement? Is, yeah, so you want to show that in the complement this is not connected. Yeah, no, but that is not true, na? If it is connected here, it can be connected in the complement also. That is something which we had seen. And those who don't know, will think about it, graph such that G is connected and complement of G is also connected, meaning that, you just take the other edges which were not in G. No. Complement is, if G is connected, G complement can be connected. But if G is disconnected, then G complement will be connected. That is true. But in any case, those are No, but you're right. I mean, the thing about contradiction is really what I'm getting at. The point is that it doesn't look like you can describe the path. Okay, that you do this, and then you get the path. It doesn't look like that is the case, right? So it means that you can never prove this, or I'm not making a claim, but it seems like that, right? You can never prove this kind of result without contradiction. Think about it. If you're proving something without contradiction, if you're proving something doing a straightforward proof, okay, so you're starting with the assumption, right? And then you're taking a step. Is you do this, and then you consider this component, or you do that, and then in this you'll find, then you've described the path, right? But it doesn't seem like we can describe the path, and that's why you cannot expect a proof, direct proof. Is that right? And why I'm saying this may not be useful for this particular question. You can just consider proof by contradiction and it will work, but you will not know when to use proof by contradiction straight up. You would not be means, if you understand the nature of the question, then 90% of times you will know if you should use proof by contradiction or you should not. I think this is a point that should keep in mind. So yeah, proof by contradiction is the way to go. So we assume that there is no path. So obviously that's assume that, or just let me write it fully. Okay, there is no path from C to F. Okay, and so then what do we do? There is a general principle. Okay, you look at, so when you're considering a point and you want to see and you want to prove that it's connected to F or some other point, you look at the, so the numbers that are given to us, they don't really work separately. There is some kind of global information, right? It's given something in general about roads and something numbers and so on. So no relation between certain types of roads and such is not given. Because of the general nature of the information, one should consider the collection of all the cities that C is connected to. Okay, and this is my point. Okay, consider, and this is a very important set to consider. Okay, in a lot of cases, consider the that is what we want to show cannot happen. That is exactly the complement of the question. Yes, that's why it seems like oh, how can this be true, right? That's what you're suggesting, right? It may not be true, but that's what we want to see, and it's surprising, but then also will be very simple, I think. Let's see. Okay, but this is what you should, if you consider the collection C, intuitively you may not get it right now, but once you consider the collection, and then that tool will help you. Considering this collection will help you if you write it in front. Let's see. So consider the color change. Consider the collection of all roads. I'm writing too many words now because we are doing this problem like first time. It's kind of, so just otherwise, yeah. Consider the collection of all roads all cities connected to C, the capital. Okay, let's call this collection S. Now this collection, this kind of collection in general has very interesting properties, but let's say this is the collection. So there are a lot of cities here, and all those cities are connected to C. Now you can observe these simple things. This is not needed in the question, maybe, is that if C is connected to these cities here in the red world, inside the red part, then those cities are also connected to C, and also those cities are connected to each other. And that's very obvious, but it's an equivalence relation kind of thing. If you don't know that, no problem. But Okay, all these things are connected to each other is also very important, right? Because you can just go via C and go. So it's simple. It does not need it here, but yeah. Okay, this is also known as the connected component of C. You're considering the largest collection, or you're considering the largest possible graph inside this graph that contains C. Okay, let me call this curly C. I think it's just a notation. It's because we're reminiscent of whatever. Okay, it's formally known as the connected component of C. Okay, is it clear to everyone? So there's a slightly misleading way I've drawn it here. What is going on? Now, what really the till now we are just talking about the logic of it and so on, but what do we do now? It's a connected component, right? What can we say? Basically, what we should say is somewhat what Raghav has already said. It's an isolated part. It's an isolated part, right? Just try to extrapolate on that. If it's very obvious, but if it's a connected component, it means that nothing can go. So there might be cities outside. Okay, see, this is the thing about the problem. It's very existential in nature. There might be things outside, and there will be. You can construct such graphs. But connected component means that, so these are all connected. They may not be connected directly, but they're somehow connected to C and hence to each other. When we do directed graphs, and this isn't hold true, but yeah, something like this maybe. But all this is fine. But the key is that, sorry, there cannot be any single line going outside this component C, this curly C. No, nothing can go outside. Is that right? Nothing can go. Otherwise, that will be sucked inside that will be pulled inside the component. Okay. It's very obvious, right? Now, where is the problem? Why is this not possible? So remember that in this component, yeah, just think about what is wrong. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. So this is C. C is this. Okay, sorry, I've called this S here. Sorry. This is C. So the C is the collection of all the cities that are connected to the capital. Now, connected to the capital doesn't mean that they have a direct line, direct road to the capital. No, it doesn't. That's not what it means, right? It means that there is a sequence of roads which you can follow and go to the capital from any point in C. Is that clear? Is it clear to everyone also? Because this consideration of, yeah, this consideration of this component is very, very important. It's not here. Here you're seeing this for the first time, but then this is just a dummy, very simple example, but you'll be using this in all the places. Because this is again very, very, abstractly speaking, this is an example of again an application of extremal principle. Like this could be put in an extremal principle example, considering the largest. In any case, let's come to the matter. Yeah. What do we do? So it is like we have found a graph inside the graph. Right? We have found this isolated piece. It's isolated. And what are the properties? Globally, that's the thing. Globally, what are we able to say? We have to find some contradiction. We have to find something that goes wrong. So see, every point, let me just say point. No, let's say city only. Consistent. Sorry. Every city in the component, has 20 roads. we know that this is also called neighbors, except for the capital C. C has 21 roads. So why is this not correct? Why is this not possible? This is a fundamental except for C, which has 21. Now I'm saying that there is something fundamentally flawed about this statement. I mean, that this is never possible. This is never possible. Any collection of points you take, okay, all of them have 20 neighbors, 20 lines coming out from them, except for one which has 21. Why is this not possible? Why is this never possible? You have to convince us. I mean, no. It's not like that, right? Because it could be more complicated. It could be connected in more complicated ways, right? As Pragya already said once, like there could be two roads going to one, like with two roads between like this, right? No, sorry. So do not consider that. I made a mistake here. Do not consider that case. Assume that between any 2 points, there is only one road. Okay, sorry, just assume that. We won't need to, but let's assume that for the time. But still, it is not correct. Yeah, that reasoning is not correct. What you're saying, it could be connected with more complicated ways, right? I mean, there could be cycles and so on, right? It's not a tree. It's not something like which only uses 20 lines or something like that. No, but there is something more fundamental that is wrong in this statement. So remember, all the lines in the curly C, in the component C, are inside C only. Nothing is going outside. That is our assumption. We want to show that in the end that is wrong. But our assumption right now is everything inside C is in C. There's nothing coming out of it, nothing going inside it. It's a component. It's an isolated chunk. Sorry. One of the first things that maybe didn't do with all of you, which is done usually, not me, but anyone would do when we do graphs, right? There is something when if you are going to take the sum of all the neighbors, sum of all the neighbors in any graph, you just take any set of points and then you consider some lines randomly. You take the sum of all the neighbors. Okay, for example, here we have 3, here we have 4, here we have 1, here you have 2, here you have 2, 0, 2. This sum is always going to be even. Try to prove it. It's very simple. Okay. You take any collection of points and you add up. This is a very simple fact, but it is very, very useful. It's just simple parity argument. Okay. Sum of all the neighbors is always even. Okay. This is also called sum of all the degrees. The degree is just the number of roads coming out of it. You can add it here. It's 5, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16. 16, it's even. Prove this, it's very simple, and then finish this problem. Okay, so finish it. Okay, this you can do from here. No, the edges are not even. Edges are not even, right? Obviously, you can take a triangle. There are 3 edges. Right? Number of lines is not even. The number of neighbors, the total number of neighbors when you add sum, the gross sum, right? So you visit every point. You visit every point and you collect the number of neighbors at that point. Like here it is 2 neighbors, here it is 2 neighbors, here it is 2 neighbors. That will always be even. Okay, and what you have raised the point about edges, that is used to prove it. It's very simple, but just do it. And then you can see here it is odd. That's why it's not possible. So this is a fundamental obstruction. But you see, this obstruction was only found when you looked at things globally, when you looked at all the things that are connected, because then only you could find an obstruction. Okay, this is, yeah, why it's an interesting question. Okay, so yeah, so it was a simple question. In the end, you saw that it was simple, but just these terms. It's like if you know that connected component is the right thing to consider when you want to check connectivity from a point to another, then you can do this problem in just 2 minutes, right? And if you know this, but yeah, we are learning these techniques, okay, and prove this, and yeah, then we later on will apply this to many other very important theorems. Let's move on. Okay, so there are no questions, then let's move on. The goal for today, okay, the goal for today was to just review, first of all, quickly review minimum connected graphs. Okay, minimum connected graphs. So you remember we have started with the topic of the cost of connectivity, right? Connected graphs. So these are also known as trees. And algorithmically how we found it. And then go to the main question, which is when the edges have weights, then how do you find the minimum connected graph with the graph which is connected and the has minimum weight? That is where we want to go. But let's quickly review the technique and also isolate some more principles. These principles are the way we should try to learn maths. Otherwise, there's too much to learn. But if you know these principles, then you can connect things easily. Okay. So first of all, we had a graph G, right? And then we were interested in, or rather, I should just say, the way we started was we just started with endpoints. Okay, so this is sort of a review, but I'll try to summarize things in a slightly different way today. We have endpoints. And then we wanted to look at minimal, or rather, I should say, minimum. Okay, minimum connected graph. This is what we were interested in. So what does minimum here means? Minimum number of edges, of course. We wanted to, given endpoints, we wanted to figure out what is the minimum number of edges needed to make it connected. Okay, and theoretically, obviously, we proved that you need n-1 lines. And n-2 will never be enough, and n-1 is obviously enough. You can make a path with n-1 lines. Okay. So theoretical result was n-1 lines. That is the minimum cost of connectivity. But this theoretical result is not enough to give a constructive way to make such graphs. Obviously, there is one graph which you can make, which is obviously just the path, right, as n-1 points, n-1 lines. But if you want to make more interesting ones, and later on, if you want to extend that technique to, minimum when the weights and the edges have weights, and you won't get out, then the path may not be the minimum one. You may have to find another one, right? So then really what we were interested in is an algorithm to get such graphs. Right, this was the next step, or maybe I should just write it as steps, right? So this was the first thing we did, and then the second thing, we were trying to look for algorithms to get such graphs. And this is where we said that, or we rather observed, this is where we observed that a minimal connected graph, if you are looking at a graph which is minimal and connected. Now, what does minimal connected graph means? It means that minimal doesn't necessarily mean minimum. Minimal means that if you remove anything from there, then it becomes disconnected. Okay, minimal means that if you minimal means that there is nothing below it. Below it means that you cannot remove an edge from that particular thing to get another connected graph. So that's minimal. Obviously, in this case, minimal and minimum were the same, and that's why we got the algorithm. But I'll come to that. That's why I'm coming at. Okay, we were looking at this problem of minimal connected graphs. Okay, maybe first one, and then we saw that this is the same as a maximal graph with no cycles. This was what really helped us to get the algorithm. We had a problem about finding minimum connected graph, which was the graph with the least number of edges, which is connected. We come down to a simpler problem, which is a minimal connected graph, which is a graph which is connected and which you cannot remove more edges from. Okay, but the really crux of the thing was that we reduced, or we showed that this is the same as, in some sense, the biggest graph with no cycles. But I should not say biggest, I should say maximal graph with no cycle means that a graph which doesn't have any cycles, but if you add one more edge, it will start having cycles. That's what maximal graph with no cycle means. Right? It's maximal. You cannot improve it. You cannot improve it. Okay, like this one, right? This is whether it is maximum, it has a maximum number of edges. I do not know. Well, of course we know, but that we don't need to assume that first of all, right? It is maximal in the sense that if I'm going to add an edge, then it will start having cycles. So it is maximal, which graphs which doesn't have cycles, right? So can anybody explain why these two things were same? Why a graph which is minimal connected will also be maximal with no cycles? It's a very simple explanation. No, it is not about weights. So let's just look at this. Yeah, it's not about the weights. It is like this. See, if you have let's start with a maximal connected graph. Okay. If my graph is maximal connected, something like this. Sorry. If I have a maximal graph with no cycles, let's start with a maximal graph which doesn't have any cycles, and we want to show that it is connected. That's what we want to do, right? That's what we want to show. We want to show that it is connected and it is minimal among all connected. But first of all, let's show it is connected, right? So we want to show that if it is the biggest in some sense, well, it's not biggest, but it cannot be improved upon, but the word is maximal graph with no cycles, then first of all, we want to show that it is connected. That is obvious, right? Because see, you pick any 2 points. Okay, how do you show this? You pick any 2 points. You pick, let me not even take this example. Let's just take a general picture where you cannot see everything, but then you can see the reasoning and see that the reasoning really is what is making it work and not the exact picture. Let's say that this particular graph is maximal I mean, so some dot, 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 some, I'm not drawing the entire thing intentionally. If this is a maximal graph with no cycles, I want to show that it is connected. Okay, first of all, try to feel it intuitively. Okay, intuitively, it means that it doesn't have any cycles, but if you add anything, you get a cycle. If I'm getting a cycle, it means that there was a path to start with, and I'm kind of, looping that path and getting a cycle, right? And that means that it is connected. But intuitive, if you want to prove it formally, then if you want to show it's connected, well, it's very simple, right? You take any 2 points. I want to show that there is a path between these 2 points. But this graph is maximal graph which doesn't have any cycles. It means that if I put an edge, if I put any edge, maximal graph with no cycles means that if I put any edge anywhere, I get a cycle. If I put an edge here and I get a cycle, oh, it means that there was already a path. Simple, right? It means that there was already a path between those 2 points. And you can do this for any points. So you're done, right? It's connected. Please ask me if this is because I missed 1 week in between. So it's connected, right? Okay. More than understanding the proof, obviously you will understand the proof, but also feel it intuitively. Ask yourself intuitively why it makes sense. Okay. The next thing that we want to show that it is minimal. It is minimal. It is minimal connected. And what does this mean? I've shown it is connected, but I want to show that it is minimal connected. What does it mean? What does this mean? It means that removing an edge will, any edge, I should stress on that. And these are the reasonings, this min-max phenomena and so on is so used everywhere, linear programming technique and many other places, vertex cover, edge, subset, independent. It's all the places there is a one version and you connect it with the other version and you have duals and so on. In any case, let's focus on minimal connected means that removing any edge, it's minimal, right? It cannot, no graph lesser than it will be connected. It means that removing any edge makes it disconnected. That's what we want to show. Remember, my graph doesn't have cycles. If my graph doesn't have cycles, so it means that if you take, so let's take an edge. Let's say let's focus on this pink edge here. Right? My graph doesn't have any cycles. Right? It means that there is no cycle here. There's no such thing. Then obviously, right? If there is no cycle, then if I remove this thing, then who is going to connect the points A and B? It will not be connected anymore, right? Yeah. The graph doesn't have any cycles. And I remove that pink edge, then what happens to the graph? So there's A and B. It is the pink edge. Just think, what will happen if I remove the pink edge? Yeah, it will not be, these 2 points will not be connected. If they were connected, you can, to be very sure, you can reason it like this. If they were connected, it means that there was a path, some complicated path, but there was a path. But if there was already a path which didn't need the point, which didn't need the pink line, it means that there was a cycle, but there is no cycle. That means that there was no cycle. Something was broken along the line, along that cycle. That means that if I remove the pink edge, it becomes disconnected. And that's what I mean. I'm saying that removing any edge makes it disconnected. So this is a very balanced graph. Okay, it's a very balanced graph. It's a turning point, and it's a turning point in graphs, right? Theory, where you go from being disconnected to just being connected. It is one of the extreme values of some function. That's where the interesting things happen. Okay. So these two things, and you can go the other way also. These two things are the same. That any minimal connected graph Sorry. No, the length of the lines is not a function here. We are not observed. Yeah. No, but yes. So that is certainly what the weighted thing is. That comes in the weighted part, right? In the weighted parts, you can put the weights according to the distance between the points. If you're assuming that the points are in some place where distance makes sense, right? I mean, if the points are just in my head and I'm just modeling, using them to model some situation, then it doesn't make sense to use distance, right? In that sense. But yeah, length of the will come there. Or some people define, there are various ways in which you define length, right? For example, I mean, this is become, we have like people know each other from so many, we know each other from so many different places, right? Then the length could be the number of people, like from person A to person B. The distance could not, may not be the actual physical distance, but it could be, person that A knows, and then that person knows that, and that person knows, and then the person knows. So how many, what's the gap between the relation between of A and that point D? That could be another notion of distance, and that is also used, and it is a distance and so on. But that's a, yeah, that's not right now. It's just very bare bone situation. Okay. Sorry, where? There you can look at distances, right? There the distance would be in terms of length of the path, and then you find minimal path length. Yeah, those things are very interesting. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So then these two things are same. Okay. If you want a graph which is the kind of the small, which cannot be made smaller, and it is connected, but it cannot be made any smaller and still remain connected, then it cannot have any cycles. Cycles means redundancies, right? Redundancies to connectedness, and there are no redundancies. That's why it's minimal, and so these are the same things. Okay. So this is fine, right? It's just a theoretical point. I just wanted to see this because show this because it really helps summarize this what we did, and also it kind of also points out one interesting thing. This is what I call it, just min max phenomena. That is, there are two different problems. Okay. And okay, there are two different questions, right? One is about minimizing something, and the other is about maximizing something, and those two meet at the same place. Okay. This is very interesting because sometimes, some problem of minimizing something may be impossibly difficult, but if you can find another problem which is maximizing something, and that maximum value is the same as the minimum of this, and if you can solve that problem easily, then two problems are solved at once. This phenomenon is used all the times. Okay. Yeah. But we'll see more examples of that later. But right now, let us move forward. We made this observation, right? And this was really the observation which got us started, right? Then we started saying that, look, if you have an isolated set of points and you want to get varied trees, want to get different kinds of trees, then the steps would be just even pure combinatorics. The steps would be that you start making edges, you start drawing the edges, but don't worry about making it connected, or don't worry about minimal connected to start with. Okay, just worry about not creating a cycle. That's what we did last time, right? Just worry about not creating a cycle. Just at each step draw a line such that you don't make us, maybe you have to draw this line for suppose there were weights on the edges, we'll see. But and also if you want to create very varied graphs, then just keep drawing the lines, but just make sure that you don't make cycles. So don't do this one. Okay. And that is something which you can tell the computer easily because it's a very simple set of steps that you can just give, right? Just you can components and so on, you can say, but in any case you can imagine that. And then we said that if you just, so then this really got us into framing an algorithm. Well, this was not enough, of course, but still, this really got us framing a simple set of steps, simple steps to get a connected, simple steps to get a tree. See, without formulating this minimum question in terms of maximum or maximal of something, that doesn't make sense. You could not have done this. You could not have got this algorithm. That's why we should appreciate this, right? Obviously, we just observed it and we did it, but this is what's happening in the min-max phenomenon. Okay. But then the question is, why is it that it worked? Okay. Before we understand that, let's try to understand what is it that the algorithm did. What did the algorithm do? What would this algorithm do? This algorithm of at each step draw an edge so that there is no cycle. Let's write that. Okay. So well, this is not the algorithm, but it's just a pseudo code. Okay. Algorithm is at each step. Okay. Draw a line so that no cycle is created. I just join 2 points, I should rather say, right? Draw a line is not the right word. Join 2 points. Okay, join, because it's not the line that is important, it's the fact that the 2 points are joined or not that is important. Okay, join 2 points so that no cycle is created. This is what the algorithm. Why did it work? Okay, well, look at what we did, what this gives. What this gives in the end, this will give us a collection of edges, or this will give us a graph that's a collection of edges which doesn't have any cycles. Is that right? This will give us a graph which doesn't have any cycles, and it is maximal among them, right? Because you're trying to add an edge so that you don't get any cycle. And when this algorithm stops, the output would be no cycle, of course, because you've maintained that at each step. That's an invariance. And the second is that it will be maximal. That's what algorithms do. Algorithms don't construct maximums. Maximums are theoretical things. You have to have some theory to prove that maximal is maximum, but the algorithm only gives you the maximal. Okay? Is this point clear? If it's not clear to someone why it gives the maximal, it gives you something, it gives you a graph in which you cannot add any more edges without creating a cycle, right? So it gives us a maximal graph with no cycles. And hence a minimal connected graph with no, which is connected. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. So as I said, so maximal, see, when I say maximal graph with no cycles, right? I mean that it is a graph in which you cannot add another edge so that you don't get a cycle. Okay. In other words, put more simply, a maximal graph with no cycles would mean if I add an edge, I get a cycle, right? If I add an edge, I get a cycle. That's what maximal means. Right? Maximal means you cannot improve upon that particular configuration. Okay. Maximum means that maximum graph with no cycles. If I say, well, in our theory, this will turn out to be the same, and that's why it will work. But in general, that's not true. Maximum graph with no cycles. Well, this means, well, maximum here means maximum number of edges. This means that among all the graphs which don't have any cycles, take the one which has the maximum number of edges, the absolute maximum. Is that right? But these two things, no, we don't know. I mean, maybe we know because that's what we did indirectly the last time, but they're not a priori the same. By definition, they are not the same, right? Just because at each step I'm trying to do the best thing, trying to be greedy. This is the greedy algorithm, right? Trying to do the best thing at each step. I'm just avoiding something, just thinking locally in that step and doing something. That doesn't mean that I should get the right thing in the end, that I should get the biggest in the end, right? That's why these two things are not a priori the same. Okay, that's a difference. But in places where they are the same, and theoretically, if you see that they are the same, that needs theory to see that they are the same, then you can cook up an algorithmic proof of that particular statement of the theorem or something like that. You can get algorithms to create those things. And in this case, you can. That's why we are getting the algorithm. That's why the algorithm will work in the end. Okay, that is a difference. I think last time I had shown let me just repeat that. Let's repeat that example. I think that's important to do. We are looking at, we looked at matchings, right? Let's say you have this, and all these concepts are important. This matching itself is very theory. But let us say that you have these 4 boys here and 4 girls here, and let's say there is some line, and line is preference. I mean, in a sense that, yeah, this guy can, let's say this person, yeah, that yes, 2, these are the only 2 possibilities for him, and some things like that. Okay, for girls, so you could have, let's say, this complicated graph. Okay, okay, 1 minute now. So let me, I have to think and create it in a way that, once again, this, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, so these are the possibilities. Okay, like this guy can only pair up with either this or this girl. So only 2 possibilities, and no other possibilities. Okay, and similarly, for the others, and also for this girl, the only choice, only guy she more likes is this one. So there's only one line and no other line. Okay, so yeah, if anyone, she can only go with him, not nobody else. Okay, something like that. So 1 minute, my graph is not, it does not give me what I want. So let's say I put another line like this. Okay, now what is the maximum number of boys that you can match with the girls in this situation? What's the maximum in this situation? Maximum number of matchings, maximum size of a matching. Well, you can match this like this. You can just match things gracefully. You can match all of them. So the maximum is 4. The maximum number of matching pairs is 4. Okay, so the maximum is 4. As I said, I mean, only when there are red lines between 2 of them is can you match them. Okay, you cannot match anything outside that. But let me give you a maximal which is not maximum. So if this guy, the third guy, spoils the thing for the fourth guy, like this, you can see, and then like this and this. This is a maximal. It's a maximal. You cannot improve upon this particular thing. This has nothing to do with connectedness, more or less, right? But this is another situation. It's maximal. Can you improve upon this? So the question is, this matching, so this matching, maybe we can say A1, B1, or I should have said B1, G1, but in any case, A2, B2, A3, B3, and A4, B4. Right? In this case, I have made these pairings. That is not the ideal one. That's right. That's right. I mean, if you just, so basically, if you just try to apply the greedy method here, like blindly in this way, just matching it with the first, or something like that. I could have created another graph where matching it with the first preference. Like I could have exchanged B3 and B4, and yeah. So if I just exchange B3 and B4 and blindly match the A1 with the first possible B that it can match to, and A2 with the first possible. If you just do that blindly, I will not get maximum, right? I will get 3. I will get 3 edges, which is not. So you see, in this case, maximal is not maximum, and but that's because, but then that's not the end of the story. You can do things in a way it will be, but here, theoretically speaking, maximal is not maximum in this case. Okay, so that's the thing. Maximum is not equal to always maximal. Yeah. Right. So let's come. Okay, I think this we discussed a couple of classes back, and maybe that's why some of you were not there that time. In any case, it should be okay from now. Okay, so the output we got was a maximal graph with no cycles. Okay, or so this is equal to this is, so we got a maximal graph with no cycles. So we got a graph which doesn't have any cycles, but you can't add any more cycles. Well, that's obvious because otherwise the algorithm would have not terminated, right? But this is the same as minimal graph, minimal connected graph. That's what we have already discussed. Yeah, you can just draw some more pictures and see also. Okay. So the algorithm gives you a minimal connected graph. Then for the algorithm to work, but why is, one second, I have to just plug in the charger. Yeah. But the question is, why is this the maximum? Right? Why is, sorry. Why is this the maximum? Why is this maximum sized graph with no cycles, or minimum sized graph which is connected? Why is this maximum? And that is because we showed that all the graphs which are connected and use least number of edges, they have all of them. Well, no. So to show this, we kind of showed, one has to show that every minimal connected graph has the same size, or every maximal connected graph has the same size, and that size is n-1. That's why it worked. Yeah, and this is, yeah, let's just have a look at this. So the reason why this worked is because all maximals have the same size, same number of edges, and that is n-1. Or all minimal connected graphs, they have the same size, and that is n-1. Right? And this is something which we had shown, right? If you have n points, you make a line, then you have, n-1. You have n pieces to start with. You have n-1 pieces. You make another line so that you don't get a cycle. Then you have n-2 pieces, and so on. So it takes n-1 steps exactly, no matter how you are doing it. Right? So whenever you get a maximal, it's always n-1. So the phenomena is that all maximals have the same size is what makes the algorithm work, and that's where the theoretical thing was needed. The proof was needed. Okay. Okay. So is this okay? Right. Now, what I want to do the next day, wanted to do today, but maybe in any case, we'll do the next day, is we want to see why all maximals have same size in a different way, have same size, just in an alternate way. Very powerful method. Okay, so we want to take two maximal graphs which have no cycles, and we want to show their size is same. But we will show something even more powerful. Okay, and that will be essential for us to do the hard part, which is the algorithm for the weighted case. And the techniques involved here are general. Okay. Why is it general? Because all maximals have the same size. The method we will use, I mean, that is the same basically as saying that it's the same thing as saying that, you know, always three directions are needed to cover, to go. So suppose you are in three-dimensional space and you start at the origin, and if I give you three different directions which are not in the same plane, then if you walk along only these three directions, then you can go anywhere in the plane, anywhere in the space. And that is very obvious. Just think about, or you can just take it in the case of a plane, right? If I give you any two directions to walk along, let's say this obviously should not be in the same line. Two different, meaning that I have the first direction and the second direction doesn't create a cycle with the first direction. In the sense that, you know, I cannot go in the same. But in any case, the point is that if I keep picking directions which are different, then I get a maximal, and that works. Here, my point is that this same technique will help us to show that any two directions I can go anywhere, right? Suppose you want to go here, then what will you do? How do you go here using these two red directions, right? Um, how do you go? How do you go here with these two red directions, right? So, right, I mean, you basically have to just figure out how much you have. Oh, that's right. But just from the picture, what you can, so that's, I'm trying to give a coordinate free argument, right? I mean, so a coordinate free argument would be that you basically have to figure out how much you have to walk in this direction, so that you make a line parallel to this, and then you extend this, right? So then you know, right, that you walk along the first red direction this much, and then take the maybe it should be like this, right? Then walk along the second red direction this much, and you will reach. These two are not the same, but you know the directions are only two. And then basically this is okay, but then you can write equations and prove it, but this also works in n dimensions. And it's same thing. Of course, they will not prove those things, but it's the same thing. And also many other things, polynomial theory, and it just works everywhere. Keeps coming up. That's why we will look at this alternate way, and then we'll use the alternate way to get the minimum spanning tree algorithm to prove it. Okay. And then also next time also we will just chip in one problem which we had picked up some weeks back, and we'll do it with this graphs thing. Okay. Yeah, so that's it for today. Yesterday I had to cancel the class, so I couldn't do the problem solving session for those who are attending that, but I will do it just soon. Okay. Yeah, any questions regarding today? Anything that you want to understand or ask again, just please ask. Because this is slightly theoretical, I agree, and it will not always be like that, but I just wanted to lay the arguments and just show the summary, you know, how this is working. That is correct, but if I were to say it, I would say it like this. I would say that if you run this process of finding maximal graph with no cycles, then it will run for n-1 steps only, no matter how you do it, right? Let's see it. I mean, this should see it. Let's say you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 points. Then if you run this process or run this algorithm, sorry, I should have the other one. At each step, join 2 points and don't make a cycle. My claim is that this will run for n minus 1 steps exactly. And that will prove it, right? That all maximas are the same size. And this is very easy to show why it will run for n minus 1 steps exactly. And it's very easy because in the first step, when you make, so first of all, you have 8 pieces. 8 pieces. When you make a line, then you understand it will decrease. Yeah, and it is decreasing because there is no cycles. Okay, so this is a theoretical result. Yeah, because we were using whatever we have to use induction to do a rigorous proof, but it's a theoretical result, and this is needed. So I wanted to show that there are two aspects, and this is very. I very like this way isolating this phenomenon that's happening. It's not what I'm saying, but what is happening is very interesting. Okay, that you have a problem about minimizing something, you have converted a dual problem. This is also is formally known as a dual problem, and later on when you do matrix theory, you will show that we will show that in fact there's a matrix for this problem, and there's a kind of matrix, and the transpose of that matrix is that it actually works in those ways. Well, not very concretely in this particular case, but this is too combinatorial, but it's like that. There's a dual problems, okay, and it's very interesting that this problem algorithmically seems very difficult, but when you convert it to the dual question about maximum of something, because if your algorithm is building from below, right, then you have to convert it to a maximal type of question, right? So that's the first thing, the conversion. And the second is that what your algorithm gives will always be a sort of a maximal, because the algorithm doesn't know the theory, right? It just thinks at each step, and the maximal turns out to be maximum. That phenomena, whenever that happens, it means a greedy algorithm will work, right? Because greedy algorithm always gives you maximal, right? Because you're locally trying to do the best. And so what you get in the end, you cannot do better than that. I mean, you cannot do better. You cannot do better. Uh, you cannot better it. What you get in the end, you cannot better it. You can do better than that in a different way, maybe, but you cannot better it. But if every maximal is maximum, then it means that greedy algorithm will always work. Okay, and these two things you somehow combine, and these two have separate theories. This is a very big theory of min-max principle, linear programming, and this is about what is known as matroids, but it's probably difficult to understand that now, but later on we will see. But those are just languages. Those are not something, those are just languages to conveniently talk about these things. That's for to understand some basic things which you're trying to understand. And what we are trying to understand in the end is something very basic, right? Given given endpoints and a lot of roads and weights, how do you find the minimum? That's basic. But then we're trying to develop a language to understand it, right? And then this language of graphs and so on, but there is a language above it which helps you to understand this graphs and polynomials at the same time, and the vectors, and all three at the same time. So there's a meta that's above this, and probably duality is even above abstraction of that, but that I don't know very well to talk about. Yeah. Okay, very interesting.